Hey, what's going on, guys? This is another part in this little series that I'm doing about Yakuza 7 here, Like a Dragon, where I'm doing a kind of multicam setup, trying to show you an overview of the scene, sometimes a zoom out, sometimes some interesting things that I've seen. So we're gonna hop in here. This is the scene where Adachi comes and kind of sneaks up on Ichiban. We'll see in a second here that he kind of jumps around a little bit. You can see actually the lighting jumping around here. That's one of the interesting things, is that every camera change seems to have a lighting change. You'll see that quite a bit. And also see some focus changes, which I unfortunately don't really have control over. You'll also see things getting culled. That's kind of the big thing, is that a lot of almost anything that's not on screen gets culled. There's a few places where that doesn't happen, which is kind of unique, but I'll definitely point those out as we see them. You can see them jumping around as the camera angles change. They often change position of everybody to make the shots look a little bit nicer. It's very interesting to see them hop around like that, but you know, that's kind of just the way it's done. Next, we're gonna see the scene where they first decide to work for the boss of the Soapland. You'll notice here that as I take a camera outside, it's very bright, almost bleached white. And that's because when they do that, the effects through the door make it look like it's a lot brighter outside. They just make the scene really bright out there, so that's very interesting. You can also see a nice little zoom in on some of the pictures on the wall here. Set decoration. In the top right, you can kind of see, like I said, about the culling, where they cull people out when they're not on screen. Obviously, people are not disappearing mid-scene to the player's view, but for the camera, for the alternate camera positions, you can see them hopping around. And another thing they often do is, you can see, less so here, but you'll often see things cross the same part of the ground over and over when they do different shots, just because it looks nice, I guess. I can't quite speak for the devs, you know? Ichiban there pulls the Kabadon? What's that? From what was it, 6? Or 5? I'm sure someone can tell me in the comments what the name of that is. You can hear the Bleach Japan guys yelling outside. They don't actually appear in the scene. Up next is the nursing home where they're spoilers, killing the patients. This scene is very unique because nobody gets culled in the entire scene. You see that the wheelchair doesn't exist for certain things. You'll see that the wheelchair wheels don't move unless they specifically rotate in the scene. Otherwise, they just kind of glide across the floor. But yeah, you can see in the bottom left the wheelchair getting culled in and out, but the people don't get culled in and out. Like, Ichiban's not visible at all to the camera right now, but he's still in that corner, which you can see in the top left, top right screen. But the people just never do. There is one guy on the inside of the door who I believe might pop in a little bit later, than the rest, but he never gets culled too after he comes in. So it's just very interesting. It's very not like how they do these things. So just thought that was interesting for the scene. Another interesting thing, which I'll get to in a minute, is that the entire facility is actually stored. The cutscene loads the rest of the facility. Those aren't 2 or 3 different locations. It's actually one location, each surrounded by a big black box. Even though there's no windows in this scene, they still surround everything in a big black box so that lighting doesn't change and you can't see the other areas. But as this scene comes to a close, you can see I will take the camera up and around here real quick. and we can see some of the other areas. This is the initial hallway that the scene takes place in. And if we zoom out far enough, we'll actually leave that black box, and it only has, it has no, I believe they call it back face culling, where the rear of the box doesn't have any, you can see through it basically. So inside the box it's black on one side, but outside the box it's clear, and so we're able to see through into the other areas. This is the big, what do you call it? Like lobby, I guess. Central area where some scenes take place, with the fountain. That seems to be, the view of the fountain seems to be the very center of the scene, if I had to guess, just because when you have free cam active and the scene ends, you get a very brief glimpse of the fountain, a close-up of the fountain. So that has to have some kind of significance, I guess, the scene. Maybe they designed this area first and then built the other two areas next to it. I'm not sure. But I'll do a little fly around here. I'll check out some of the stuff on the desk. There's nothing outside. You know, like I said, there's just a void, a black box. And until you leave the black box, there's really nothing else in the scene. And so over here on the other side of the cutscene area, you can see another floor. I think this might have been where Ichiban was talking with his supervisor about cleaning the bathrooms and all that. And just another hallway that's not that third floor or the penthouse, whatever hallway that's supposed to be. Nothing crazy in here. There's some weird like indents in the wall, like a little cubby area off like behind the camera right now that has no windows or doors or anything in it. It must serve just an area for them to come in and out of in the cutscene, and you know, the viewer can't see into it, but it's a place for them to go. All right. Up next is this scene here where he's going to get spared from removing a finger, and Ichiban talks to him about how he's happy a real Yakuza still exists. This is another scene where the exterior is very bright, again for spill in through windows and stuff, although I don't believe there are any windows in this room. But what's interesting again is if you look at the top left, you can see it loads this whole facility, and even though this cutscene is just inside this one room, they load this whole building, the building next to it. Basically anywhere you can look out a window, or there's some of those areas that are outside that you get into briefly, that you could see down and out an area, the buildings in the background and all that. They load all that in, even though this whole cutscene resides solely in that room.
正しいか正しくないかだけでは測れんものだ。我々はメンツで生きてる。堅気に土足で上がられては清流会のメンツが型なしだ。今日は勇敢なことをしたなどと決して思うな。お前らは今日この私と清流会をコケにしたのだ。そのことを肝に銘じて明日から生きろ。
久々にヒリヒリしました。俺は嬉しいですよ、会長。
何がだ。
18年も無所に入って出てきたら、俺が目指してたはずの極道は世の中から消えてた。でもあんたは違う。いい意味でも悪い意味でも俺が知ってる昔の極道だ。
お前やっぱり同じ世界の人間だったか。お前みたいな男を育ててくれた極道ってのはどんなやつなんだろうな。
俺の親父だった人ですか。組の名前を勝手に使ってヘマこいた見ず知らずのガキの責任取っててめえの指を落とすような、そんな人でした。よし、帰るか。
待て、一つ教えろ。お前の親父とは誰だ。
元東上会系荒川組組長荒川真澄です。
荒川。
ま、その親父につい最近撃たれちまったんですけどね。まあ嫌われちまったのかな。でもまだ俺にとって最高の男は荒川のおやっさんなんです。
荒川か、覚えておこう。
Up next is a scene in the coffee shop, if I remember correctly. This one's a little bit tough to sync up time-wise, so you'll see the different cameras end up drifting a little bit from each other. That's because the rest of the cutscenes, when you're using this free camera in normal gameplay, you can control the speed of a lot of the environment. So using D-pad left or right, you can speed up or slow down. It starts paused, and you can speed things up to real time or even faster than real time. And so these scenes are a little bit special because normally in a cutscene, if you hit the right to speed up, there's only one speed, full speed. So it's either everything's paused or everything's running in most cutscenes like this. However, these don't seem to run on that same premise, and so you can actually run them slower or faster than real time. And going in and guessing what real time is in a scene like this where the feedback isn't really instantaneous, you know, because they're just moving from one pose, you know, directly to another pose. It makes it a little bit tough to judge that, so the timing's just off between the cameras. Another interesting thing you'll notice is that the outdoors again is very bright in order to make that look out the window, you know, have that window, that bright light spill. There is a little bit of a there is a lot of white tinge, you know, in the scene, but that's kind of just the way it is. You'll also notice that the gentleman at one point sits back in his chair and just gets like stuck. Not stuck, but they have him sitting in the chair really weird. And the last scene here is where we discover the soap landowner. Again, spoilers, has been murdered. They don't know that yet. To them, he appears to have committed suicide, but you'll notice that they don't really have the body in there for very long at all. Just only when you see him on screen, more or less. You know, this is one little area with Nanba, you see him, but that's kind of it. The next shot is where they pan up from the table. The bottom left again is another zoom out. Again, outdoors is very bright, but I did do a zoom out just to show that again, even though the scene takes place entirely indoors with maybe just a peek out that door, they load a significant chunk of the area. Anyway, that's all I have for you for this. A little bit of a shorter one. I kind of took a little bit of time between the last one and this one. Hopefully I'll get a few more of these out soon. The next couple have less cutscenes, if I remember, than the first chapter. The first chapter had a lot, so that one actually took the longest. But you know, this is shaping up to be a 20-minute video. But you got to remember, each camera view had at least 4 passes, if not 5 or 6 sometimes. So that ends up being a couple hours worth of work just capturing the footage and then converting it and making proxies and editing it and all that ends up taking some time. So it is a little bit of a process. Anyway, definitely check out this mod if you're interested in it. I'll make sure there's a link to it in the description. It's by Etra0. You can find it on their GitHub. It's for like a dragon, 6, Koami 1 and 2, and Yakuza 0, if I'm remembering correctly. It may not be for, it might be only for Koami 1, but you'll see. If you go to the GitHub, you can see exactly which games it encompasses. But definitely shout out to them for making this tool and making it public as well. Definitely, you know, couldn't do that by myself, so thanks to them. Like always, if you have any requests as to what you'd like to see, you know, put them in the comment section. I think after I do all the cutscenes, I want to go through and maybe do some of the Smash pound mates, excuse me. Get as many of those as I can, and then maybe some of the things like the satellite and you know, the special moves. I may have to grind a bit to unlock some of them, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys and have a good one.